tell you another person who's the enemy is Ritchie Torres. You want to see him?
Oh my God, do we have to?
We got to go Ritchie Torres.
Oh, okay, all
I'm
right.
gonna go after this because
Okay.
this guy has the aesthetic talent to be a. I can see why the party is pushing him. He's a New York APAC guy.
Yeah.
But man, is he sleazy.
President Trump's second
term
term are focused on rolling back diversity,
real quick though, I
yeah.
did want to address a comment.
Go ahead.
Lyrical Cereal says, "I'm loving Trump's first week so far. Trump the GOAT."
Oh.
And for those MAGA types in chat, and like I got 14 viewers right now, that's insane. I would like he's getting things. Yeah, he's getting things done, but like, what things in particular
that are hurting America?
Well, yeah,
he's hurting the fucking country.
No, for real. Like, what in particular are you in favor of? I mean, yeah, he's going very fast, and we're going to talk a bit more about that. The blitzkrieg of Trump executive orders and everything. We're going to get to that. There's a whole lot to go for. It's been a very, 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 very busy week. But let's go ahead and start with Ritchie Torres. Show me what you got here, Deezer.
Torres. Yeah, this came out the other day. This is when I texted you. I was like, this guy's bad.
This piece of shit. This APAC bot piece of garbage.
Starting today. While our next guest has been a longtime supporter of marginalized
Hello, Joseph. Welcome in.
Party, particularly on the far left, for its outsized role in shaping Americans' perception of Democrats' priorities. Democratic Congressman Ritchie Torres of New York joins us now. He has an opinion piece in the Free Press entitled "The Rising Democratic Coalition Fell."
You're in
now
for
what?
something,
Thank you
Pyro.
for being on, and I'll start there.
I'll hold
now
you to that.
What?
Well, look, the ground beneath us, may be shifting. Class is increasingly replacing race as the most powerful predictor of voting behavior in American politics. And by class, I mean educational attainment. There were a few congressional districts that saw a greater swing toward Donald Trump.
That's not class, motherfucker. That's not class. That's education. They're two different things.
I'm convinced.
You can be you can get an education even if you come from a lower middle class or just a lower class family.
Mm-hmm.
If you're intelligent, you like school. Dude, you're already pissing me off.
Yeah, no, this guy's a piece of shit.
And I think black people might not like him with the way what he just said.
Oh yeah, no, the fucking.
I don't know. I don't pretend to represent black consciousness, but if I were black, I think I might take issue with what he just said.
If you were watching earlier, I actually covered the video by a YouTuber called Advice from Lewis, and the fact that like all this eradication of DEI and affirmative action, it's all based on a fucking bunch of lies. The conservative media has touted for as long as I can remember now. These buzzwords, these fucking lies about discrimination. Yet there's no fucking evidence provided that like implementing DEI programs and whatnot and affirmative action is in any way fucking discriminatory. It's a meritocratic system for a fucking reason, but these systems are in place, DEI and affirmative action, so that way if you feel like you're being discriminated by your employer, you have the right to fucking sue their asses. You have the right to fucking go after them and say like, hey, you're discriminating against me. That's why these executive defenses were in place, because this was fucking happening a whole fucking lot.
It happens. It happens.
Like, yeah, and then Trump gets rid of him. You can't fucking like sue as easily anymore. Like these protections are slowly being stripped away, and eventually it's going to be he's going to go after the Equal Opportunity Employment Act or whatever of 1972 or something like that. It is all complete fucking bullshit. DEI is just another buzzword for minorities, for the LGBTQ, for fucking women. They can't point to any evidence as to why it's bad and why its implementation has been a negative for the fucking country. Let's get on with this fucking sellout to fucking APAC. Jennifer,
well, just real quick, one piece of one area of corporate culture where sexism is rampant,
of course,
is in the world of engineering.
Yes.
It's like a 70-30 percentage of college majors in engineering are men versus female. And that shows up in trying to get a job. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough to get a job as an engineer as a woman.
Yes. One thing, since we're on the topic of Ritchie Torres, I had a tweet that actually did some numbers earlier this week. It was about Ritchie Torres. I'm actually going to share it here with my stream here, but check this out. So I had a tweet that says, "Reminder for anyone watching Morning Joe. This is when you reached out to me, Dieter. Ritchie Torres is a gigantic piece of shit, a huge whore for AIPAC, and loves watching thousands of brown babies be blown to bloody pieces by American-made weapons dropped by Israel." And this goes for Senator John Fetterman too. Fucking 277. Yeah, 277 likes, over 6,000 views. Fuck Ritchie Torres. Fuck anybody who defends him. Fuck AIPAC for defending him. Let's see what this piece of shit has to say.
Well, look, the ground beneath us, may be shifting.
16 viewers, please subscribe. I appreciate you all so very much. I'm out of line.
Behavior in American politics, and by class I mean educational attainment. There were a few congressional districts that saw a greater swing toward Donald Trump than my congressional district, New York 15, in the Bronx. The Bronx is one of the most democratic areas in the country.
We're not Democrats, Pyro.
Or less.
We only tolerate
in 2012, President Barack Obama won 96% of the vote in the Bronx. 2024, Vice President Harris only won 74%, a more than 20-point swing. Where take Starr County, which is almost exclusively Latino. It has voted for the Democratic Party since the 19th century. In 2016, Hillary Clinton won by more than 60 percentage points. In 2024, Donald Trump won nearly 60% of the vote. And so for me, the lesson learned from the 2024 election is that voters of color can no longer be treated as a monolith or taken for granted. We as Democrats have to hustle for every vote and every voting block, and no one and nothing can be taken for granted.
And what were the turnout numbers on that, so that we can make the analysis complete, you jackass?
Yeah.
It's not just about the movement in the percentages, it's about the turnout, because the turnout would affect those percentages.
So I think it's we could go on for hours looking back at what happened, but I'd like to look forward and ask you, did you hear a lot of people saying Democrats failed to meet people where they are? You got to meet people where they are, and you have to have a resounding message that breaks through, right? It sounds great, right? I want to know how. I want to know what that looks like exactly, especially in this climate of disinformation, in a climate where clearly Democrats lost terribly in the worst way ever. And we are sitting here, Democrats, in a state of, I think,
we're going to get to
that, move forward, or maybe a lack of knowledge as to how to move forward. So educate us. How do you meet people where they are in this climate? What should Democrats be focusing on, and how should they be doing it?
I'm waiting, Pyro.
Look, for me, the Democratic Party should have a simple mission, which is to lower costs, lower crime rates, make government work for the people rather than for the interest groups.
How?
And we have to recognize that.
No, I agree, Lyrical Serial. Like fucking MSDNC is fucking correct. These are defenders of the establishment. Fucking, they will put on anyone who is like the biggest fucking sellouts. Ritchie Torres is no fucking he's the perfect example. This guy will do anything for money. There's a reason why a tweet of mine, even though I am not verified, even though Elon Musk's Twitter does not reward people who aren't verified, they suppress a whole hell of a lot of people who speak out against Israel, especially. My tweet still kind of took off a little bit because I criticized Ritchie Torres because of the money that he takes from AIPAC and the fact that he doesn't give a flying fuck about the fact that Israel is dropping bombs on fucking children in Gaza. Like, and of course, MSNBC is not going to fucking even pay a nod of attention to any of that fucking shit. We cannot stand these fuckers. We probably we both voted for Kamala. I wouldn't hold it past Dieter. I don't think I've ever asked him, but we both voted for Kamala in this election.
I voted for Kamala, but it's important to vote in California because of the ballot initiatives, no matter what.
Yeah, like a lot of the propositions.
You always got to vote in California because of the propositions.
Like on issues like
for various reasons. We can always get into that. We can get deeper into it, but we'll get there eventually. Yeah, go ahead.
Where they are. If we swing the pendulum too far to the center,
Okay, so wait a second. How do we meet them?
So educate.
How do we meet them where they are? Let's hear some specifics.
And how should they be
specificity, y'all?
Yeah.
Well, look, for me, the Democratic Party should have a simple mission, which is to lower costs, lower crime rates, make government work for the people rather than for the interest groups. And we have to recognize that working class voters of color are largely in the center on issues like public safety and border security. And we have to meet them where they are. If we swing the pendulum too far to the left, we risk alienating working class people of color. And working class people of color are no different from most Americans. Most Americans want the basics, an affordable cost of living, safe streets, secure borders. And so we should be focused like a laser on delivering the basics and ignore the fashionable nonsense that is taking hold in our politics.
Okay. And when you say swing too far to the left, what do you mean specifically?
Yes, tell us.
In the case of the 2024 election, it was immigration. As I said repeatedly, I felt the president did
which is total
to secure the border.
Fucking bullshit. Not only did the Kamala Harris campaign run to the right on the border, so did so many of the Senate races and House races. I can't even tell you how many fucking ads I saw talking about, well, we need to focus on the border. We're focused on the border. We need they might as well have ran as Republicans on the border in particular.
Yeah. Well, she said she would submit the same bill.
Yes,
she said
Kamala Harris literally said that she would fucking sign the immigration bill that was put forward by Republicans that gives them basically every single fucking thing that they wanted. The thing that Chuck Schumer proposed in the fucking Senate and pass it down to the House. Like oh, okay, you want to be serious about the border? Here you go. And Donald Trump called fucking multiple representatives in the House and senators and said, do not sign this bill because I want to campaign on this issue. I need to campaign on this issue to scare my base about the fucking border. So that bill that would have given Republicans and Trump, so he says, every fucking thing that they wanted and more, they killed so they can campaign on it and scare you. They don't give a fuck about actually fixing the bill. The border.
Dude, you could win an election just going after AIPAC.
Yeah,
you could win. Ritchie Torres got 1.5 million. Hakeem Jeffries got 1.6 million. Chuck Schumer got 1.7 million.
Yeah,
I mean the list goes on. They own everybody.
AIPAC
own everybody. They own the fucking federal government.
They own the federal fucking government. AIPAC controls everything. Go ahead.
For me, both inflation and immigration were the leading causes of Democratic defeat in 2024. And in the case of immigration, I felt like the Biden administration did make fatal miscalculations that cost us the election.
Congressman, good morning. Great to have you back on the show. I was struck by the term you just used, fashionable nonsense, and you get at some of that in your piece, and you share an anecdote about talking to a white activist who called themselves a police abolitionist, saying, I'm here to help you. We're going to defund the police. We're going to get rid of the cops.
Both political parties,
said, hang on a second. Can you talk a little bit about that conversation and why you believe that's an important message, too, for Democrats?
Yeah, so I spoke to an activist who was advocating for abolishing the police, and I said, let me get this straight. You want to conduct a social experiment on the lowest income communities of color in places like the Bronx. So what happens if that experiment goes badly? What happens if it leads to an outbreak of gun violence and gang violence and youth violence? Like you live in a wealthy white neighborhood in an ivory tower, insulated from the consequences of your utopianism, whereas my constituents are poor people of color who have to live with high costs and high crime rates. And we should be speaking to the lived experience of people of color.
Yeah, you ever talk to them about their health care? You ever talk to them about their educational needs? You just said that education is the gateway to economic prosperity. Mm-hmm. So why don't we reform education to make that more available to them? Yeah. Instead, you're talking about the southern border.
When you consider some of the most utopian ideas in politics, whether it's abolishing prisons or abolishing the police or abolishing ICE, those ideas do not come from working class people from places like the Bronx. Those ideas typically come from activists and academics who are out of touch with working class people.
So, Congressman, you spoke about how just now the Democrats have lost this portion of their base, this idea of the black, brown, and white voters together. But yet at the same time, we are seeing just now from the new administration memos going out to federal agencies last night saying to pause, to put on leave anyone who they deem a DEI hire, which it is being interpreted as the first step towards eliminating those people. So give us, first of all, just those positions. So give us your reaction just to that news, but also how do you then rectify this? How do you square the circle here from more voters leaning towards Trump, even as the administration takes these steps?
Look, I disapprove of the actions of the Trump administration. And for me, Trump lacks the character to be president of the United States. But I'll speak bluntly. I'm just not aware of I've never had a constituent tell me that his or her highest priority was DEI. My constituents tell me we're concerned about crime rates, about the cost of living, about housing. We want you to focus on those issues.
Fucking New York.
And when did Kamala Harris ever bring up DEI? It's just the fact that she was black.
She didn't fucking run on any of that shit at all.
Gonna lie. I obviously disapprove of just about everything Donald Trump has done so far. But we have to focus on the issues that matter to voters. And for example, Donald Trump's decision to pardon the perpetrators of January 6th who assaulted police officers. That's something that's...
Call them terrorists.
They are literally fucking terrorists.
Call them
by
terrorists.
fucking definition. By definition, I mean,
there should
everybody
be a
who showed
sheet.
up on January 6th, on January 6th, by definition, are all fucking terrorists. Yeah.
Call them terrorists.
By definition.
There should be like a cheat sheet of like I'm talking about top-down leadership, guys. I know everybody wants it to be grassroots. We need to take the top of the house.
Yes.
Deeply unpopular and deeply offensive to people across the political spectrum. And that's an issue on which we should be focusing.
Congressman, you and I were speaking in the break. You made...
That's an issue on which we should be focusing. So how are we supposed to focus on that issue other than complain about it? Because it's done. It's done. Yeah. You can extrapolate this. See, this is what makes, me want to be a coach for these people, is you can segue that into not only dropping the terrorist bomb, but saying, let's never forget why January 6th happened.
Yes.
And let's make sure January 6th never happens again by making sure a Republican president never happens again.
Yeah, it literally wouldn't have happened without fucking Trump. Period. Period. End of story. End of story.
DEI. So going forwards, how do you think your party can position itself as best as possible to take back the House
witnessed that
in the
shit. I fucking watched it
as
it happened.
By making sure that more candidates like yourself from the kind of center right of the Democratic Party run for office?
Look, I feel like we should, and this is true of every elected official, we should always challenge ourselves to ensure that we're remaining in touch with our constituents. Because when you're Washington, D.C., you can easily become out of touch, you can easily become insulated. And, when deciding what position to take on an issue, we should ask ourselves, what is
for law and order, Pyro.
Like if this were a referendum, take on an issue, we should ask ourselves, what is the position of the American people? Like if this...
Okay, so that is the definition of lack of leadership.
Yeah.
Leadership is knowing what your people that you represent want and making sure they want it for the right reasons, making sure they know what they're talking about. For example, with the southern border and the immigration law that Kamala wanted to reintroduce. That was not the right bill.
Yeah.
That was not the right bill. That was a decoy that Chuck Schumer used to trap Trump and trap Mike Johnson.
If this were a referendum, how would the American people vote on that issue? Because I feel like you cannot veer too far from the...
It's just consumer politics.
Take on an issue, we should ask ourselves,
it really is.
What is the position of the American people? Like if this were a referendum, how would the American people vote on that issue?
Well, sometimes the American people need to be educated on issues. Sometimes the American people are sick and tired of hearing politicians tell them that immigrants are pieces of shit who don't deserve to be here.
Yeah.
Sometimes leadership is stepping up and saying, I am so sick of hearing everybody hate on immigrants. Let me stick up for immigrants for a second.
Yeah, let alone fucking any marginalized fucking group and like to begin with. Crying out loud. They're all fucking cowards.
You cannot veer too far from the public without risking a public backlash.
And that means losing your job.
Yeah.
Right? You can't veer too far from the American public or you might lose your job. That's garbage, man. If you're connected with your community that you represent, you can tell them things they don't want to hear.
Yeah.
You can talk to them. It's a matter of communication skills, and this guy's communication skills are pedestrian.
The pendulum was swung so far to the left that it has led to a public backlash that has made our country more restrictionist, more right-wing, more reactionary, not less.
Oh, so it's the left's fault.
Ritchie Torres of New York. Thank you.
Okay, that checks out because we swung a bit too fucking far to the left. We have Donald Trump and the fucking fascists in power. We have Project 2025 fucking implemented right now. It's like this motherfucker didn't pay attention at all to the Kamala Harris campaign and how they tried to fucking capitulate to the right on fucking various issues that they harped away on for fucking years at that point. Fucking bullshit. If they actually did capitulate to the far left as they fucking call it, maybe if they actually changed positions on how we approach Gaza, all those votes that went to Biden in 2020 would have actually went to fucking Kamala Harris, the Bernie coalition, the Squad coalition, the progressives. But Kamala Harris didn't campaign with them. She didn't fucking speak to them. And here we fucking are. Like, they ran a center-right campaign. Unfucking deniable. I have to piss. You're gonna have to take over for the next minute if that's okay.
Yeah.
I'll be literally fucking right back.
No, not a problem. I mean, it's the issue that I struggled with for a little while is immigration, because there's this built-in cultural assumption in American society that if someone's getting something, I want to know that they're getting it for a good reason. Why aren't I getting it? It's not fair, yada, yada, yada. This whole culture of making sure that I get mine, screw everybody else. Immigration is where that cultural assumption lives. It is absolutely outrageous. But I would encourage you guys to get on Open Secrets and check out AIPAC's giving, because it is amazing how many of these politicians are getting more than $1 million per from AIPAC. It's just absolutely absurd. Here, why don't I just share this tab with you guys? These are the biggest beneficiaries of AIPAC. Joe Biden got $4 million. Robert Menendez, independent from New Jersey, got $2.5 million. Hillary Clinton got $2.3 million. I mean, this is all lifetime. So Chuck Schumer's gotten $1.7 million. As mentioned, Hakeem Jeffries got 1.6. I mean, the list goes on, y'all. Campaign finance is the root of all evil in American politics, and a reckoning is coming. MSDNC has taken an absolute nosedive in ratings ever since the election, and ever since Mika and Joe went down to Mar-a-Lago to meet with Trump. So wherever you're getting your information, if you're on the left, watch Morning Joe to figure out where the baby boomer liberals are at, because it invigorates you to understand that the only way progressivism is really going to have a chance is if we break through a lot of these cultural assumptions.
I have 21
about
viewers.
Issues like immigration, issues like education. I mean, Trump says in one of the debates, I have concepts of a plan as to how to fix healthcare. No, you don't. No, you don't. And neither do Democrats. Neither do Democrats. How are you going to fix healthcare? Oh, we're going to tweak some stuff. And that's what Bernie said on his most recent interview with Hasanabi, was that this is a political party that doesn't think the system's broken.
Yeah.
They won't even get out. They don't even get out the gates of saying that the system is broken.
No.
And that's step one.
It really fucking is.
For any Democratic candidate, for me to have my respect, you have got to acknowledge that this system of conservative capitalism, it's not a version of capitalism that could actually have made sense, because a lot of these other Scandinavian countries, they're capitalist societies too. They've just found ways to manage the relationship between the people and the government and the private sector a lot better. And that's what matters most, is the intersection between the citizen, the federal government, and the private sector. That's what makes society work. And in this country, the private sector owns the government.
Yeah. No, yeah.